this is how I reach that flow state that we talk about. And it's great to achieve that state. It's just so enjoyable.
Does that mean producing the most or enjoying the most, or what is the appropriate?
Yeah. What's on your mind?
Welcome to the podcast.
Welcome to the podcast.
This is the podcast.
Story updates.
Story updates? Oh, go straight into that? That story?
I mean...
Yeah, let's just go right into it.
Yeah, we're not on anything already. So, I guess last podcast, I was like, you know what, like, I'm just going to tell this story. For anyone that didn't hear, in about a couple sentences, I was born through artificial insemination with an anonymous sperm donor. So I was raised by a single mother my whole life, and then I did 23andMe a year and a half ago. Logged in 3 weeks ago maybe, and saw a half-sister. Looked her up on Facebook, saw that she has a twin. Oh, another half-sister. Okay, and there was more details, but I feel like I told it just like, you know, it's just good to document this. I'll be able to look back on it eventually, and just like I want to share it. But, and also like maybe some unexpected twist will happen, and
then you'll have documented the process behind the scenes.
Yeah, like every so often I'll get an email from 23andMe, like, you have new DNA relatives. And every time I've logged in, it's always like, oh, it's a fifth cousin or something. Except for when it was a half-sister. When I got this email, when I got back to LA on Monday, I was like, alright, I'll log in and check. And I log in and another half-sister.
It's so crazy.
Like, what the fuck? It's just so, yeah, it's just crazy.
The wildest part of that is just like the timing, right?
Yeah.
Like for them both to have done it within a few weeks of each other after you having gotten nothing from it for a good year and a half plus, and from probably wondering about this for years before that as well, and then all of a sudden multiple come up within basically a few weeks of each other.
Yeah, and there's just so many like odd, it's just such a strange situation I found myself in, I guess. Yeah. And like I'm happy for it. Like, it's cool. But
it's such a good story. I'm jealous. I wish I had this story.
Yeah. You never know, man.
Fucking famous.
Dude, just order on 23andMe. You spit in a tube. You never know what can happen.
I'm on there.
The story comes around. It started in a tube, then you spit in a tube that they send you, and it all
full circle.
Full circle.
From tube to tube.
From tube to tube. Episode title.
From semen in a tube to spit in a tube.
Oh god.
Wow, this took a turn really quickly.
Yeah, how do we dig ourselves out of this tube-shaped like pit?
I think if we just pour it upside down and let it drip out.
Yeah. Yeah, that seems to be the only way. Yeah, so
how do you feel given the update? Like, or what are you doing to pursue, or what are your next steps or thoughts?
So I guess there's a few things. Number one, I've already said this, but it was just such a surprise. I didn't expect it. Like another one, like, are you kidding me? But past that, I'm also happy about it, because I think it's just makes it a cooler situation that there's like 3 parties involved now. Yeah. And I also checked it, so not only are the new one is half sisters with me, but also half sisters with the first one that I'm matched with. So we're all half sister / brother to each other. And I think that kind of just makes it cool that it's like not only 2 parties anymore.
Yeah, that's very cool. Now it's like you're all kind of in the same thing together, and like, who knows, if you pursue it, like you could all sort of kind of do it together in a way rather than just like one and one.
Yeah.
It is cool. What if you check, like, what if it just keeps happening?
Like every Monday, I get an email in a few weeks, like, sorry, we've had a bug recently.
No, like, they just keep, like, Dude, what if in another week it happened? I would like lose my shit of just like the timing. That'd
Dude,
be
like,
wild.
At this point, it seems probably likely. Like,
Right? Like,
Yeah.
right. If we were to think this through in a statistical way, the fact that there were 2 new matches within weeks of each other seems to increase the odds that there are more than that out there.
even
right?
the fact that there's 2 matches in a year and a half,
Yeah.
and really 3 matches because one of the matches had a twin.
Right.
Yeah.
The fact that those all happened in such a relatively short period of time seems to increase the odds that there are more out there that haven't yet spit in a tube. Right?
In the tube. Yeah. I mean,
It would seem that way, I guess.
It does. Yeah. I guess it's hard to know.
Like, for
exactly.
example, let's say you had waited 3 years and then there was one match, and then 5 years later there was still not another match. Then it would be like, all right, it seems lower odds that there are a bunch of these out there.
Yeah.
Whereas the fact that it was in such a short period of time feels like, now I feel like there probably are more.
It's crazy for the one that just showed up because she probably got an email like, your results are ready, and she logged in and one half sister, one half brother.
Immediately.
Like,
yeah.
fucking imagine that. When I logged in, it was just like, oh, second cousin.
Ah, yeah. And even for the first one you found, she must have had a sort of similar experience, but with just you.
Exactly.
But then now, yeah, for her, it must have been like, whoa.
Yeah.
Have you like found her Facebook?
So
or-
I did a quick search on Facebook, and like, I think I found it, but I was just like, you know what, like, this is too much right now. Like, I just like don't have time to fully think about this yet. So like, I actually haven't really spent much time at all. But the one that I did found also had, just like the other one, had one mutual friend.
Wow.
So I don't know
Weird.
if it's her. I'll have to like look into it. a
Not the
little
same
more.
mutual friend.
No.
Okay, that would be very weird.
That would be weird. Another
It's
real.
me.
Oh my god, one mutual friend, Matt Loverstein. Yeah.
I am your father.
Oh my god. What a reveal.
That would make this the best podcast of all time, and also like physically impossible on many levels.
Never say never.
Aren't I like 11 days older than you?
Never say never. Yeah. So anyway, crazy twists.
Wild, dude. I wish I had a story like that.
Yeah, well,
I'm working on it.
yeah, well, you'll just donate sperm. You'll get a story like that eventually.
I guess eventually, yeah.
Yeah.
If you hear about it.
Yeah. It is crazy, like, that this guy donated sperm. I'm 25, so maybe like almost 26 years ago, and like there was no DNA. There was nothing like 23andMe at the time. You know, like, obviously, like, maybe if you do that, you know, like, maybe eventually something will happen with it. And not that I know who this guy is or that I'm actively looking for him, because I'm kind of not. But it's just strange, like, with the technology now, like, the ability to match with a half sibling.
Yeah. Right, like if this had been even just like a decade ago, it really wasn't there.
Yeah, you wonder, like, maybe there's like other shit that's coming in the future that'll, like, yeah.
Dude, have we ever talked about the Golden State Killer together?
I like vaguely remember you mentioning this like several times,
Dude,
but I forget.
You and every single person that is hearing this right now needs to go down a rabbit hole of consuming every piece of information ever published about the Golden State Killer. I swear, your time will not be wasted. I'm not somebody that like cares about even like shit. I barely watch the news. I never watch like fictional stories. This is a real story, but this one is like so captivating on just like a million levels. I don't even know how much detail I should give right now, but like
Just start.
the dude, jeez, I haven't thought about it super recently, so I'm probably gonna like botch a bunch of details. But long story short, this dude is a crazy fucking serial killer, right? He was just found about 2 months ago, and the killings were in like the 70s in California, like northern and southern California. Long story short, they realized that like there were basically like 3 different known criminals. Like there was this dude in like the East Bay that was doing all these burglaries. There was this dude in like the Sacramento area that was raping, and then there was this dude in Southern California that was murdering. And eventually they realized these were all the same guy at different periods of his life. Like it was like, I forget the years, but it was like, 65 to 70 he was doing burglaries, and 70 to 75 he was raping, and then 75 to 80 he was murdering people and all that. And then he just got like found was the word, literally a couple months ago at this point. And anyways, you can like go way down that rabbit hole. It is fascinating. The dude's absolutely freaking crazy, and like he was like a genius about it, but obviously like super messed up to be able to do that stuff. But like just like shit out of a movie. Like he would break into okay, here's the one detail that I want to give is that at one point I believe this was when he was raping women but not yet murdering them after, and he at that, so up to this point of the story he was targeting women at home alone. Okay, so he would he would stalk them in some way, break into their home when they weren't there, all of that. This was in, I believe, Sacramento, and it was like a huge issue. Like everyone, you can look this up, and it's crazy. There's so many people that have stories of just like, the community never locked their doors until then, and it was just like in the community massively because it was happening like every week or so. It was wild.
Wow.
And so they have this like community meeting like with police and all of that at City Hall or whatever. And in this meeting, this alpha dude gets up and he's like, the problem is that the men are leaving their women at home alone. If the man was there and he was strong and he was there, this wouldn't be happening. And he goes on this big rant about that. That guy, his house gets broken into. He's there. He gets tied up. The woman gets raped, all of that. So the dude is at that meeting listening, targets that guy who said that, and he's like, you know what? You're the next one. And I'm gonna prove you wrong. I can do this when the man's home. And then every single one after that, the man was home. And he would do this wild stuff. Like he would break in, it would be like an event. He would be in the house with them for like 8 hours. Like it was not just this like quick thing, and he'd get out. I mean, he would like claim his territory. He'd like tie them up, go into the kitchen and drink beers for 3 hours. He would like when this is all terrible stuff. Like it's horrible, but it's just wildly fascinating how maniacally obsessive this guy was. He would tie up the man like in like say the kitchen or something as he was raping the woman, and he would stack plates on the man's back as like an alarm system. So if he heard the plates, that would be the sign that the guy had like gotten up or moved or something like that, because like the plates are rattling because they're like bouncing on his back, all this crazy stuff. Anyways, enough on that probably, but like the point that I'm bringing this up is because the way he was discovered was
23andMe.
It was not, so it was like, it wasn't 23andMe, but it was one of the other ones that like they had they were able to, because they had some amount of evidence. I'm forgetting the exact detail, but like they had DNA evidence, but this was before everyone had DNA profiles, right?
Right.
Back then, like, there's been a million stories that are like, now that they have DNA filings of pretty much everyone, Is
that true? They have DNA filings of pretty much everyone?
Not everyone. Like, they didn't have it of this guy, but a lot of people, right? Anyways, what happened here was that they didn't have, this guy was not in the system of something like 23andMe, but they were able to figure out his basically family tree.
Oh, fuck.
And then they were basically able to go look at this broad family tree of say 200 people and be like, well, these ones are too old. Obviously it's not the women in this family tree. It can't be anyone that's older than this, younger than this. Therefore we have 10 potential people that it was. And then they just looked into all those people, and it became very obvious which guy it was, and they like staked out his house and they arrested him. 30 years after he ever did anything. Wow. He was living a normal life, working some job. I forget, he was like a mechanic for some like trucking transportation company or something like that for decades. Fuck. But anyways, it came through this type of technology because they were able to figure out his relatives and then just narrow it down relatively easily. Like, this whole thing escalated in a very short period of time, and it was dormant for decades. So
Right.
think about how many other potential stories there are like that.
Sounds like a Netflix series. Where did you hear about it?
Well, so it was this interesting situation where I was like, I met one of the founders of this couple $billion company, like these geniuses. And we were having this business meeting talking about all this other stuff. And this meeting happened to be like a couple days after he was arrested or something like that. And that guy, I think he was like an ex-cop or something that he had investigated this a lot on his own, like maniacally himself, because he's just like an obsessive genius.
Yeah.
And he brought it up, and he was just like, his eyes got wide. He's like, oh my God, this guy is crazy. He's gonna break out. This guy trains in his basement. I mean, this guy is a monster unlike any other. He had this just fascination with him that I was like, oh my God, I have to look up this dude. And then me and Jessica went down this rabbit hole of watching every YouTube video. There was a documentary made before this. So I think it is on Netflix, but it was before he was captured recently. So this may have came out a few years ago, and then all of this escalated within the last few months. And but anyways, that was what led me down. Yeah, there's Netflix, there's a bunch of like YouTube documentaries, and then like right after he got captured, there was a subreddit where people were like uncovering all this crazy shit. Like, oh my God, here's a photo of him like at like my son's baseball tournament. Like, just like all this crazy stuff. And
I think this is Reddit's favorite thing to do.
Oh my
to, like,
God.
investigate murderers.
Yeah. No, and then like literally on Reddit, they were like digging up these cases of like, in 1973 there was this murder here. Like, do you think this was him? And then they'd be like, well, it has this characteristic, but he didn't do this and this, which is like characteristic of all of his other crimes. Because he would have these little, I forget the word for it, but all these criminals, like serial killers and stuff, they have these like little traits and characteristics that are like little gems that are kind of in each one of their cases. For example, one of his was the fact of like the alarm system. For example, in like the plates I talked about in the rapes and murder cases, in his early days, which is one of the ways they tied him to that string of murders, string of break-ins. By the way, he was an ex-cop. I left out that detail. So that was how he had this training, and he just knew how to evade the cops so well. He was once a cop. So his first crimes were these burglaries, which they eventually tied to him for one reason being that he would ransack the house. Like, he would just pull everything out and leave it all over the floors and shit. The first name was like the East something ransacker or something like that. And then the East Area Rapist came next, and then the Golden State Killer came last. But the first one was like the something ransacker. And while he was just, in the beginning, he would basically break in their house, throw their shit everywhere, and take nothing valuable but just highly personal items, like one earring or something like that. And that was in common with the rapes and murders. Eventually he would take like a photo of them or something, but nothing valuable. And in those cases also, he would like do this elaborate thing where he would tie the doorknob, or he would like balance something on top of the doorknob, so if the doorknob were to get turned, like the cup would fall and it would break. So he had these like analog alarm systems, and was one of the things that was on every.
It reminds me. Have you ever seen Dexter, by any chance?
I haven't. No.
Basically, I saw it a while ago, but it's about like some guy who like loves to kill people, and it's like the thing of the show is like it's just in his genes, and like this is what he has, and he has to figure out a way to use it for good. So then he finds bad people, and then he just like does it. And yeah, it's interesting. Like everyone who watches that show, you're like, oh, did they just get me to like root for a serial killer? And like, yeah, I mean, it's the stuff is just interesting.
It's fascinating
on a level.
It's like a I mean, like I said, I get excited about it, and I think a lot of people get excited about it because it's such a mystery, and it's such an example of psychology spiraling out of control.
It's like, is this shit happening? Like, what the fuck?
Right. It's unbelievable. It really is unbelievable, and he's one of...
Like, to think that we could be here and somebody just walks in, right? Like, I sort of feel like there's really no benefit to thinking about that because, like...
Yeah, I mean, I think I can think back to even me as a kid and just having, this sounds like it was out of control, but like I think a lot of people get afraid of like, oh, like what if somebody breaks into my house and kills me or whatever. But I think most cases are like pretty thought out and targeted and stuff.
You know, when I was a kid, I thought about this and I was like, all right, here's what I'll do. I'll just be like, look, like what was I saying? Like, I was gonna like talk him out of it. Like, look,
Yeah, this whole plan.
don't do it. Like, please.
Yeah. Yeah, I used to think like, okay, there's this window, I can escape this way. Like, it's just like wild shit. But I think it's because like, yeah, watching fucking TV shows and movies growing up and stuff.
Dude, yeah, even like, it's even in the back of my mind when I'm in like crowded places now. Just given the stuff that happens
Sure,
in the
yeah.
U.S. sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think for me, it's just like doesn't really help to think about it too much.
I think that growing up, it's like, I feel like, or maybe it was just me, but it seems to be common amongst most, but as children, we just have like more paranoia about that type of stuff, or like, you know, believing in ghosts or something like that, or like, oh, this place feels creepy. And now I just don't even, I don't know, that stuff doesn't really even enter my headspace ever. But Jessica and I have also talked about this, is that I think a big part of that is where we live. You know, living kind of on this like west side LA, like, which is a pro and a con. I think we might have talked about this on like the second episode of just like, you know, being in noisy environments versus being way out there. And one thing about having people in close proximity is you always feel like somebody's kind of around. Like in a weird way, it makes you feel safer, though it might be annoying. And people maybe listening that live in rural areas might think we sound like the most like scaredy pants people of all time. But like, yeah, if people like living here were to just go out and sleep somewhere immensely quiet, it scares us, because we're so used to, like, if we were here in this apartment and we were fucking screaming, like, think about how many people could hear us.
The police would be here within like 4 minutes.
I would say 50 plus people could hear us if we were to be screaming at the top of our lungs.
Yeah.
Whereas, you know, there are a lot of places where no one would hear you if you were screaming at the top of your lungs.
Yeah. It's interesting because
Except your family in the other bedroom.
they're like, he's just having another thing. So
He does this.
I was in New York about a week and a half ago, I guess, 2 weeks ago, and it was I was staying with my friend Jason, and he was saying like it's really safe in New York because there's just everyone is everywhere, and everyone's kind of watching.
Yeah, like you can't get away with anything in a place like that, right? Though I would have to say in New York, I feel like there's less likelihood that people would do something about it. Whereas I feel like here, like, dude, a fucking car breaks down and like everyone walks out of their house. Whereas in New York, I feel like you're kind of just fending for yourself a lot more.
Although I think if it was something serious, people would do something.
If somebody
about
just
it.
got shot or something.
Yeah, I would say that it's interesting. Like, New York probably is a lot safer than it feels when you haven't lived there.
I mean, just look at how people say, oh, you can't go to that third world country because it's dangerous or whatever. But, you know, you compare that statistically with anywhere in the U.S. and is it really that dangerous?
Probably not. I think that a lot of conceptions people have about foreign countries are, like, wildly off. Like, the amount of people that have opinions on foreign countries that have never been to them, like,
all those statistics,
most of this stuff is pretty safe.
Yeah. And it's also, this is almost like zooming out to just statistics in general, is people, it depends what situations you're putting yourself in. Like, for example, if you look at the frequency of shark attacks worldwide, and you say, I have no idea what the statistic is, but let's say 100 people out of the world die of shark attacks every year. I have no idea if that's even remotely correct.
Right.
But let's say that. Now, that statistic is completely different in the fucking mountains versus surfers.
Of course.
right? Like, but I feel like that's not necessarily in the data, right? We're just looking at it in terms of like frequency of the population.
Yeah, it's like your chances of dying in a shark attack are 1 in 100,000. It's like, oh, but if I stay in Denver all year and I never see the ocean, is it still 1 in 100,000?
It's 0 out of
Yeah.
infinity. But
what if there was like a shark that got somehow delivered to your house in like
okay, it's possible.
so,
What if though
Not that.
you are somebody that swims 2 miles open water in the ocean every single day? Now, what are your odds of dying of a shark attack?
35%.
And this is why I don't swim in the ocean.
Talking about, I've been swimming in the ocean in the mornings, and I know I saw it somewhere that you said you've been doing that.
So I go in the ocean frequently, but like
you don't
like past the break and just swimming lengths, that intimidates me, and I have not really done that.
Yeah, I wonder.
Have you done that, or have you just been like going in and getting cold? And
I
like,
go in and I like tread water.
yeah, I'll go in, but like I'm talking about when you see the people like at the distance of the pier and they're just swimming for lengths, you know, and they're out there past the waves. I mean, that to me is like, ugh.
I bet
Right?
you they love it.
Yeah, I'm sure they do. You and anybody should listen to Peter Attia. He's one of the most fascinating people on multiple levels. He's a doctor that's been on like the Tim Ferriss show. He's kind of in like the realm of people might know names like Dom DiAgostino, Rhonda Patrick, like all this like cutting edge anti-cancer longevity research. This dude is fascinating. And he also used to do massive open water swims. Like he would swim from LA to Catalina and back.
Wow.
And he swam something like in the Hawaiian Islands. I don't know which islands, but there's like a triangle you can swim and it takes you like 24 hours. And he's done shit like that. And that just, he talks about this on Joe Rogan. If you just type in on like YouTube, probably Joe Rogan, Peter Attia, sharks, you'll probably see them talking about this. And it's just fascinating because this is the guy that's interesting on so many levels, but then just hearing about him do these open water swims, they love it, but it's also terrifying sounding. Like one of the most terrifying sounding things, I would say. It's just crazy.
You're just like powerless to the ocean.
Yeah, and and we're talking 12-hour swims. I mean, it's crazy. It's really crazy, and you like can't get, something happens if you get the water in your mouth and you're doing it for that long, like you'll end up sick in some way. There's just all these crazy things to think about, let alone the fucking sharks and just the cold and just the stamina being able to swim for that long. I mean, we're talking literally all day swimming. Crazy.
Yeah, it's like if I go for a run and if I get really tired, then I can just like take out my phone and call an Uber home.
Yeah, you can. I think when they do these really long, at least the tournament style ones, they have like a little boat that's like monitoring them. Like they're not literally out there by themselves. They're by themselves, but there's like a little paddle boat or something, kind of like making sure they, especially for the tournaments, they're making sure they don't break rules and stuff like that. Like, I don't know. So they're not literally just like plopped in the middle of the ocean by themselves with nobody, but they're still like on their own. Like a shark could come up and fucking swallow them. And the boat would be like, well, shit.
Like, all right, let's call it in.
Yeah, actually, I went down this rabbit hole of YouTube videos like that, and there was this one of this woman. It might have been that Hawaii swim. It was something that was easily a 12-hour swim, and it was like she was like 10 hours into it or something, and they like alerted her that there was a shark near her, and so they had to like pull her out of the water. And I'm like, shit, like you just swam for 10 hours, you didn't even get to finish it, and like you're disqualified because you touched the boat and like all this stuff. It's like I would never fucking go swimming again.
Yeah. Yeah, people do these extreme things.
Yeah.
Even like, I have a friend who started running and he did 1 mile, then 4 miles, and I think the other day he did 10 miles. It's Jason, but it's just crazy like the lengths that some people take this to. Like some people run like 50 miles.
Yeah. What's his name? I'm blanking out on this dude's name right now. He's he's on a lot of podcasts. I think he's written books too. Jesse Itzler, something Itzler. He's really an interesting guy. He created like NetJets and Zico coconut water. He's a billionaire. And he does that stuff. He does these 100-mile runs. It's just crazy. Like their feet are broken by the time they're done. It's crazy. Like they literally have I think they literally sometimes have broken bones in their feet by the end.
Yeah.
It's like, what?
Fuck. It's crazy.
I think that sounds addictive to me. More than, I don't think any longevity doctor sort of person would ever say that that's healthy.
There's no health benefits to running 100 miles.
Even 10. I mean, it's weird.
I saw a stat. It's like after you've been running for an hour, although I would say maybe even less, there's
probably
no
less
more
from what I would
health
know.
benefits.
Yeah. I there are major health benefits to sprints. I want to start doing that. Because longer runs, it's weird. Like if you're doing it for sort of like cardiovascular health, it's highly questionable at this point. Like if that's even beneficial or not.
Interesting. What would you consider a longer run?
Anything that's like a sustained pace and not a short-term sprint. Like even people like probably like a few mile run or whatever, just like the daily kind of typical runner run. If there are people that love it and there's nothing wrong, like you probably, but but if you're thinking about it in terms of like, I just got to do this for cardiovascular health, probably not that protective.
Yeah, it's interesting. I do, for me, I love it on a few levels. I guess number one, it just feels like meditative, and like when I'm running and listening to music and like I'll have a coffee beforehand, I just like get so in the zone and just like this is how I reach that flow state that we talk about. Like almost every run without fail, it's just sort of just lose track of everything and you're so in it, and like the music, and you hear like the drum separates from the guitar, separates from the lyrics, and you sort of like all hear them at once. And it's great to achieve that state. It's just so enjoyable. But then also I think there's like a mental toughness too behind like I'm running and I just like you just put one foot in front of the other.
Yeah.
And when you're running, you sort of just like you just do it even though it is uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. And I love it on that level. I feel like it's good for my mind.
It's definitely good for your mind. All exercise it's one of the main things that leads to increased BDNF, which is brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which is essentially your brain's ability to make new neuronal connections. So there are other things that increase. Anything that's good for BDNF, I am like all in on. Exercise maybe I could be a little more all in, but that's one of the big ones for BDNF. Yeah. So that's a large part of the reason that running is helping you to reach flow state and maybe like have new ideas or integrate memories, or it's kind of like when you go to sleep and you really do the learning. Like you learn something that day, but then the sleep is when you really learn it. Similar to something like running.
What else can increase BDNF? I saw this in your the biohacking group on Facebook.
Yeah, meditation has been like proven studies to show that it increases BDNF. Psychedelics too have, which could be a huge factor there. Anything like food wise, things that are very high in polyphenols and antioxidants. So we're talking like blueberries and dark chocolate and like dark leafy greens, coffee, quality coffee. Those things are huge for BDNF. Getting good sleep. I mean, people's sleep is whack, and you need that to be able to produce good BDNF. Those are the ones that come to mind. I'm sure there are a few others that I'm probably blanking out on right now, but just actually, Bulletproof has a really good article about this. Just type in like Bulletproof BDNF. They have a blog post about it that I thought was really high quality, and it broke down a few more than just that. But those are some of like the core ones that I think about.
Yeah.
Polyphenols, meditation, psychedelics, exercise. Yeah.
Dude, and talking about sleep, a few nights ago I got blackout blinds for my apartment.
Oh, nice.
Fucking game changer.
It is. We had them at our old apartment, and I still have them in this bedroom.
You haven't yet?
No.
Yeah.
But I use a sleep mask every night.
Oh, okay. So it's kind of the same.
It's kind of the same, but it's still not quite. Like, it's much, because it's strange, but if your brain knows there's light, even though your eyes can't see it, it's like your brain is still lit up. And if there's just really no light, it feels different.
Yeah.
So it's still much better, but it gets me part of the benefit, and that's probably why I've had the laziness to not get that done. But yeah, it's a game changer, but sleep mask helps. Yeah.
Yeah, something that I wonder about is like, what happens in the morning when it's still so dark out? Like, is there anything healthy about having it be a little bit lighter as you're nearing waking up?
There is. Optimally, we would want to recreate our primal environment, which would be pitch black at night, but then the sunrise in the morning.
Yeah.
Pretty hard to do that in an apartment necessarily without like some sort of automation and stuff like that, which is possible. But yeah, no, like optimally, you would go to sleep early enough that waking up to the sun would be sufficient sleep already, and that during the core dark part of the night, it would be pitch black. That would be what would be optimal. I still think for most people's situation, they're still going to benefit massively from blackout blinds, even if they sleep until 9:30 and it's still dark. They're still going to have massive benefit versus having light be intruding on their sleep the entire night, by far.
Interesting. You can actually, we'll look into this after the podcast, but there's like blackout blinds on Amazon that hook up with Amazon Alexa.
Yeah, but you also want to like monitor how many electronics are near you in your sleep and stuff like that, because I mean that's being shown to interfere with sleep and so many biological things, is like EMFs, magnetic fields, stuff like that.
Is this why you turn the Wi-Fi off?
It's one of the reasons I turn the Wi-Fi off. We actually unplug everything in that region of our place.
Interesting.
I just pointed to the bedroom area for those that are listening and not sitting on the couch with me. But yeah, you don't, I mean, the worst is like the person that is like, hopefully you're not doing this, but the worst is like somebody that's like charging their phone like next to their bed and like leaving the phone like basically next to their head like on. Like you really don't want to be doing that. Like airplane mode, leave your phone, like that's massive. Like
airplane mode, is it because you just subconsciously know the phone is on and you can't
both,
turn your mind
but
off?
I am way more and more convinced that there are actual biological things going on with
like,
the phone.
Dude, I feel like all of my neighbors have Wi-Fi's and like
Right.
there's probably 50 Wi-Fi waves going.
But the
through
way
my mind.
the physics of it, and it's been a while since I took physics I took like the whole like physics for engineers series, which was like fucking hard. But the way that those work is it's a what would this be called? It's like an inverse exponential. I don't know if that's the right term for any math people listening, but basically it means that like on the bottom of the fraction is distance squared, which means it's exponentially less intrusive based on distance. Meaning having your phone touching your ear is still dramatically different than 3 inches away from your ear, which is dramatically different than 3 feet away from your ear. Like it's so much based on proximity.
Got it.
But you're right with the Wi-Fi. We are not fully escaping it by any means. I mean, there are people that make their bedrooms into complete Faraday cages, which means you get this like, special paint and blinds that can truly block that stuff out. And it can measurably change the quality of your sleep in terms of like your nervous system getting into that restorative state versus like a on edge sort of state. allows you to basically heal more. But you're not. Yeah, I mean, we're obviously not getting to that extent as of now, though I would like to. But anything that we can easily sort of cut down on, we do. So, and then there are added benefits of just the fact that your phone's not going to bother you. You're going to sleep better too. But I wouldn't. For a long time, I would do airplane mode, but I would still have it charging next to my bed. Now I don't even do that because as soon as there is I'm not an electrician. As soon as something is plugged into in the outlet, now the current is running to that outlet. That's the way it works. So if it's not plugged in, it's not like completing the series. So there's no electricity running to that outlet until you plug something into it. So, and even if you had like say an iPhone cable plugged in next to your bed and the phone not connected to it, there's still measurable like electricity being emitted from that area just because the cable is plugged in and dormant basically because it's completing that circuit. So I don't even have it plugged in next to my bed. And I just keep my phone in the other room at night and on airplane mode still and nothing plugged in our bedroom. Though technically one thing that is like a hole in my plan is that we do have a ceiling fan, which technically would still still have power to it. But I think the thing with that is even if we turned it off, I believe it's still there's still going to be current to it. And there's also something about height. There's something about like above you versus below you that makes a difference in this electrical stuff that I'm not quite sure of. But
and it's like the ceiling fan makes the air circulate.
Right.
Like that's
and again it's proximity. So the phone charger plugged in right next to the bed is proximity. So yeah, versus something even plugged in like let's say your head is at one wall and across the room like past where your feet are you have something plugged in, that's already going to be massively diminished versus something plugged in next to your head.
Interesting.
Yeah, definitely. I think this is something that's just going to get more awareness because I mean for the longest time it seemed like and I still don't even know with certainty if this stuff is true, but it seems to have gotten so much more scientific clout in the last few years, whereas 10 years ago or something, scientists would be like, oh, you're like a loony person if you think your cell phone is affecting you. But now there's just so much research around that because I mean we had such a rudimentary understanding of biology back then. Like we didn't even understand that electricity could affect our bodies back then, and now like we realize that it does on a million different levels, like massively. So I think it's only inevitable that more scientists start being outspoken about, how is this stuff really affecting you? And hopefully at some point, like even the technology companies will have to do something because we're doing so many things to this planet beyond just electricity that we don't really understand the long-term effects of.
Yeah, and
this is the first time in history that we've had fucking power all around us and fucking 5G internet blasting us 24/7. Like we've never done this before. Like we don't know how this turns out.
That could be another title: 5G internet blasting us 24/7. Yeah, it's just insane. It's fucking insane. Like, what's happening with the world? A lot of different angles we could take, but yeah, I guess a common one is like these phones.
Yeah.
Like, especially social media. Like, I feel like maybe in the past few months I've been on social media more. Maybe maybe I charge my phone like twice in a day instead of once now, or something like that. And just having your eyes like fixated on this 2-dimensional screen, I feel like that can't be healthy.
And also vision or for
your mind, vision. Like I guess TV is also different because like you press play and then you sit back, whereas the phone, it's like you have that thing right in front of your face. You scroll. It's
it actually
it's like a drug.
It allows a lot of people because your eye muscles when you're focused on a focal point that is near you are contracting in a certain way versus when you're looking at say a horizon, they're very relaxed. And historically, we spent a lot of time looking at horizons and giving our eyes time to relax, whereas now we're like almost constantly looking at very close focal points. So there's definitely effects on vision there too.
It just reminded me, this is another really interesting thing of LA versus New York. is that in LA, if you go to like 3-4 levels up, you can see for probably miles. Whereas in New York, there's tall buildings everywhere, and our eyes are fixated on these closer things. You don't get to like see a view.
Yeah.
Them in the
There's
same way.
something to looking at the horizon for sure. I mean, it can be meditative in itself. I think it's just like a natural sort of primitive thing for us to be able to do.
It's just interesting, like, to look out at the ocean and it's like, oh, like, you can only see so far and then you can't see anymore. It's
Right.
like, it's comforting to like know where where the edge is.
Right. Yeah. I mean, what you're seeing there at the horizon, that's just the end of the flat Earth. So.
Right. And if the flat Earth theory were to be true,
It's
then
the ice wall.
It would look like that. I rest my case.
Yeah. I mean, I'm looking out the window and it seems flat. So.
I don't know, man. I think I see a curve. I don't know. You see flat, I see a curve. Let's just flip a coin.
Oh my god. Yeah, New York and LA. I haven't been to New York in a while. I want to go, but I think it's not my scene.
Yeah, I was talking with one of my neighbors yesterday, and he said, yeah, he was in New York and now he's in LA for a bit, and he said he was just like the anxiety.
Yeah. Even like downtown LA, dude. I mean, to me, that's like a mini. Obviously, it's not New York, but it's the same.
It's like a city.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, you know, let's say New York is 100 out of 100 on the city anxiety. I think downtown LA is still 90 out of 100. You know, obviously, it's a much smaller, like population-wise and geographically and all of that. But I still think you get massive stress by being in that environment. Then you factor in all this sort of like primal living situations where we've just been talking about optimizing your sleep, your sound, your electric field around you, like all that stuff. Good luck trying to do that with like in any city environment. I mean, I think it's hard enough here out by the beach in a relatively chill area, but I mean, we still have, you know, there's still fucking trucks going down the street. There's still telephone poles everywhere. I mean, it's like we're still very much bothering our natural state, which was what humans have done for, you know, ever. And we've only been playing this game for a very short period of time.
It is interesting though, because it almost does seem like it's the natural evolution to attract to cities.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting too how people. I think about this is that anyone that grew up in a rural area kind of has this like lust after like, let's like go to the city. And then everybody in the city is kind of like, you know what, like, what if we just had a farm?
Yeah.
And it's so interesting. It's like, but then the people that like never leave the farm, they're like, the farm sucks. And the people that never leave the city, they're like, yeah, the city is dirt. But the people that seem to like grow up with one and then go to the other, they seem to like really appreciate it because they know the other one too. Yeah. Like Ryan Holiday, like LA, and now he's got this like farm outside of Austin, Texas. Yeah. And it's just like, but I'm sure there are plenty of people that just like grew up on a farm and they're just like, you know, just milking the goat or whatever.
It was so interesting. Like when I was on the East Coast, I was like lusting after LA, and I was like, like I'm gonna fucking like move to California. And I love it. But then I was back on the East Coast for 10 days in New York and Maryland. And I would go for runs and just be like, these fucking trees are magnificent. The leaves are just like cool. And like I'll be running through like real trees, not these like LA desert trees.
palm trees and cactuses.
No offense to any palm trees that are listening right now.
Yeah. But don't you love that vibe too? Like we've got that look here, you know? It's just like,
I do love it, but there's something also cool about just like being in like a forest.
Actual nature. Like here our trees are not nature. They are like, you know, palm trees that somebody just like planted from a truck or.
And they're also just like they're more scarce. Like there's not as many palm trees as there are like trees.
Yeah, I wish we could have more. There's something very healthy. I mean, on so many levels.
So many.
Not just like, you know, in terms of air quality, but in terms of just like, I think that our brain just does something when it sees, kind of like talking about the horizon. I think it's the same thing when you just look at a lush green environment. It just puts you right back. Like you just said, you just got plants in your apartment. There's something, we like having plants around us. Like, it just puts us into that state, our natural state.
I just like, well, yeah, like I got them yesterday and I just look at them and I just feel good.
Yeah. Dude, plants. Anybody that doesn't have plants, you're missing out.
Yeah, this episode is sponsored by
I was just going to do
plants.
that.
Plants.com. It's like stamps.com but for plants.
Plants.com. You know, we have subscription services. For those.
You don't even have to water it. It dies in about a month and then you get a new one.
You know, we had to think of a way to get you to replenish every month, so the plant just dies and then we bring you a new one.
It just dies. It always dies within 28 to 32
Guaranteed.
days. Guaranteed.
What do you think about
or
fake,
your money back?
What do you think about fake plants? I hate fake plants.
But yeah, I kind of. It's like, what are we like? What? Why not just get a? I kind of feel the same way.
I hate fake plants. Like, any fake plants that are listening? like
any fake plants that are listening? How about you better take this personally?
You better turn this. Yeah, because it's funny. It's like
turn this off podcast right now.
What is What is like something? I feel like I could, if I had enough time, I could think of something akin to this. But it's like admitting you understand we have this primal connection to plants, but then you get a fake one that's not even the actual, but it like tricks part of your brain into thinking, yeah, I have plants, but this plant is just like made in China plastic. It's not, you know, it's not soaking in the sun and drinking the water and, you know, minerals from the soil. It's not doing all of that.
It's not a plant. It's like a picture of a plant.
Yeah.
Well, but I also don't really mind pictures of plants.
Yeah, I mean,
because pictures of plants are self-aware. It's like, look, I'm a picture of a plant. I'm not a plant. But then the fake plant is like, oh, I might be a plant.
You know what else? I mean, I guess this is technically a fake plant still, but fucking turf grass. I mean, okay, maybe for like sporting events or when they need standardization or something, but like, dude, first of all, we're here by the beach. Like, the Strand is this walkway that runs basically the entire west side of LA right by the water, and like, nobody has fucking grass here. Like, what's the closest house to this right here that you think has like a lawn? Like, I feel like there's like basically zero. Like, nobody has lawns here, which, by the way, that's fantastic. I think lawns are stupid too. I don't know. I just do. I get it. I guess if you have like kids or something, but
because
like,
it's like unnatural.
Yeah, and it's just like one of these weird things where we just put ourselves in a box and like do this thing that we have to do. And,
so yeah, everyone has a lawn. I'll have a lawn.
Yeah, I gotta mow it. I gotta take care of it. I gotta fertilize it. I gotta all this stuff.
So I guess it is like a pretty easy way to have some nature and not like.
But it's like bullshit nature. It's like, oh, we can't have any weeds. It's just like perfect. But anyways, then like there's a house or two on the Strand that have like a little bit of fucking turf, and I'm like, dude, the sand is right there. And like, what? Like, where is your brain to like want to put fake grass at your beach house? What the fuck is that? It's weird. Having fake plants would be like having like a fake like dog.
Like a stuffed animal.
Yeah, but that's like not quite the same, I guess, because I get that.
No, it would be like having like a wax dog in the corner that like looks real, but then it isn't.
Looks completely real. Yeah, not.
It's like being at the wax museum. It's like, oh, these people look really weird, but it's also a little bit
like
creepy.
A stuffed animal. You can still like hug it and it's soft and like you can sleep with it or something. But like, this would be like having a fake dog that like a fake dog. You have like a dog bed in the corner of your living room, and there's a fake dog on it all the time. That's having a fake plant. Could be like, oh, I didn't know you have a dog. Oh, it's not real. What do you do when you leave town? Oh, it's a fake dog.
Are you saying that I don't have a real dog?
But like, you know, you like go out of town and it's like, oh, like, can you like water my plants or take care of the dog? It's like, oh, no, like, so this plant needs watering. The dog, yeah, that's fake. This plant's fake. Like, what the fuck, right?
Yeah, it's like, I kind of feel the same way about fake candles.
Yeah, that's a great example. Yeah, I agree with that. I think that's a little less because I mean you still get some benefit of like having light and like maybe it's warm light, maybe it has that subtle flicker, but it still loses the charm of the real candle for sure.
Yeah, like the real fire.
Yeah, right. Fire. I mean that's another back to looking at the horizon or looking at plants. Fire. I think that's right there too. And there's actually infrared light and fire that we crave. Like that can help us sleep. It can help so many things, and we lack that natural light now.
I think about just like the environments we surround ourselves with affecting us, and we talk about this a lot. But even like living near the beach and living near the ocean, people almost like take on the qualities of the water, and I guess what are qualities of water? It's like flexible and like easygoing, and like if water meets an obstacle, it sort of just like goes around it.
Yeah.
Whereas in a city, like what does a city look like? These building structures, it's just a bunch of like giant dicks everywhere. And yeah, it's like, oh well,
people become giant dicks everywhere. It's basically what we're saying.
I don't. Yeah,
Maybe. But yeah, they become rigid, and even people dress differently, they act differently, the whole thing, you know? Like, and even if not New York, even like we were in Chicago relatively recently, and just the way people dress is dramatically different.
Yeah.
Like,
and the way people dress here is like it's all its own sample, right?
But here, I mean, like, we want bright, fresh colors, and like we want to feel alive. Whereas like you go to a lot of these cities, and it's like everyone's wearing like, like gray jeans with a black shirt and black boots or something. It's like it's that look. It's that like city look.
Yeah, I mean,
which is cool.
Yeah, I think that everything has its own benefit and its own like everywhere's got its own vibe, and that's what's really cool. Like,
yeah,
you can just. I think that's the coolest thing I've learned in traveling is like, you never know what you're gonna get before you go somewhere. Like you just get there and you just couldn't have possibly predicted like what it's gonna be like in like Chiang Mai versus Barcelona,
what it feels like here. Because you hear things, but it never quite.
They're like, oh, it's so peaceful there. It's like, well, what does that mean, right? But then you actually go there,
and you're like, oh,
like the people are all a little bit different.
Yeah, that's really cool.
It's like, they're. I think it's so important to travel. Like, this is. I feel like people always have these like preconceived notions about other groups of people, whether that's like a religion or a race or like a country or this and that. And in my mind, it's hard really to get over that unless you actually meet these people and you're around them and you're like, oh, yeah, people. But I think about, how there's like birthright where they like sentence Jewish people to Israel. I feel like eventually there should hopefully be something where it's like birthright but for everyone, where it just sends you to like Southeast Asia or like even Europe or like Africa or like, I guess I'll just South America and the other ones, Australia. But like, like send someone.
You just discriminated all the people in Antarctica that are listening.
Sorry to any listeners in Antarctica. Unless you have fake candles. In that case, I'm not sorry.
Fake plants in Antarctica.
Oh my god. But they wouldn't live otherwise.
Oh yeah, now that's sad.
Alright.
If you are in Antarctica, that's the only time to have fake plants.
If you're in Antarctica, please leave a comment.
Like and subscribe. Wrong platform.
Yeah.
What else is new? What are you thinking about?
One thing I've been thinking about is like setting goals versus being in flow and in process. So this Tim Ferriss podcast with Jason Fried, that got me thinking. Jason Fried was like at Basecamp. He's the CEO of Basecamp. We don't really set goals. We just like want to have a process that we do, and like we show up and like we do what we need to do, but like we don't need to hit any numbers because like numbers make you scared and numbers make you afraid to fail, and numbers make it possible to fail. But like, if we do good and if we're doing what we need to do, then, you know, it doesn't matter what the numbers are because we're doing what we need to do. And I was like, fuck yeah. Like, this is totally right. Everyone is just like obsessed about measurement. But just like do what you need to do. But then recently, I've also been thinking like, sometimes for me having a goal has like really motivated me. Like, I remember in college, my top goal was like, when I graduate, I want to work for myself. And that's like, was literally like, and it was cool because I had like this 4-year time frame, and I was like, I want to fucking do this. And then it happened. And then after I graduated, I was like, you know what, like, I want to move to California. And yeah, it took like about a year, and then I did it. And I feel like right now it's like, well, what is my goal? And then I feel like people ask me this, and I'm like, well, what do I care about? Love, connection. Like, well, fuck does that mean? Like, maybe I do need a more specific goal that's measurable with a time frame.
It's such an interesting thought, and it's something I think about as well. I feel like either end of the spectrum is not completely right. I think, obviously, like everything, the answer is probably somewhere in the middle. Because I think the people that are so obsessed with the goal, they lose the flow of the moment. And I think, on the other hand, if you're only in the flow of the moment, then it's like, well, what are you really doing? You know, like, obviously, like, love and things like that are important, but like, you can express those things on your way to something, you know? Like, those are like characteristics of the way you hold yourself more than like a destination, or like, you know, I want to build this business or create this in the world or something like that. Like, you can be compassionate and have love as you are, you know, creating this goal of like writing a book or something like that. That's the way I think. I mean, and I don't know too, because like I think I've had similar goals, and yeah, like what is my? It's interesting to actually bring this up for me, because I don't think I've had a clear goal recently either, and maybe that's a big reason why I've been just kind of like, not like running in place, but like I've been like making progress on stuff, but like also just kind of circling, kind of lost, kind of like hard to get me motivated to work on certain things, because it's like, well, what is it all for? Like, what, like, is this really the right thing? Do I want to be doing this? Like, should I be doing that? And it's like, but maybe part of that is that like I don't have a clear goal, whereas at one point it was like, you know, I'm graduating college soon, I need to fucking figure out how to make money on my own. Or like what were some others? Like, we were living in a really tiny apartment at the time, like when I was like first starting this business and, you know, graduating college and all that. And, you know, then we were like, fuck it, like we want a nice place. And then we like, you know, made a fairly substantial upgrade, and like I got the Porsche around that time, a little before that actually, but like those were like obvious goals. Like, fuck, like I'm still, you know, living in a tiny fucking nasty place and driving a 29-year-old car at the time, basically. And
well,
like,
what model was it out of?
It was a Nissan 300ZX 1988, and I had it until 2016. I got it when I was 16. If anyone doesn't know my age, that probably makes me sound like I'm like 40. The car was already like however old it was when it, like, I got it in 2000. It would have been like 2008 when I was like 16-ish. So it was already almost, no, wait, 16 plus 12. Wait, it was already like 28 years old when I got it. Yeah, it was an old car. But it was a cool car. I mean, anybody that knows what a Nissan 300ZX is, it was cool. It was like, I mean, I was so pumped about it. And that was why I never upgraded for the longest time until I like could make a substantial jump, because I'm just kind of like a enthusiast of that thing. And that was a really cool car. It was like all original, kept very clean. It was white with a red interior, manual transmission, you know, had a lot of feel. It was just a cool car, 2-seater, like all that. And I mean, my current car is a lot of that too, but just better. But anyways, I mean, those were like clear goals, I guess. And then even with YouTube, like I think that was a clear goal. Is I was like, I like 10,000 subscribers, for example.
Yeah.
Was a pretty clear goal. But yeah, since then I've just been kind of like, I don't know, trying to like figure out, just kind of like doing a lot of reflecting and thinking back on, am I doing what I really want to be, what I should be, what is the highest leverage, or should I even be doing the thing that's the highest leverage? Like I'm just like constantly kind of like spinning my wheels thinking about that stuff.
I think that something that's happened for me is like after setting that goal in college, it's like we set a goal and like we kind of know we can do it, but then you never know you can do it because you've never done it before. And I set this goal, I was like, I really want to fucking do it. And then like I did it. And I was like, oh, well, I want to move to California. And I guess that's more like doable, but still it was hard. And I did it. And I think just like, and then there's been other goals here and there, but like after achieving a few of these like small successes, but they're big successes for us. And you realize like, okay, like this stuff isn't magic. You just like have to really like, I guess, find something that really excites you, and then you just like really go at it, and there's probably like a decent chance of it happening. And I think that my anxiety recently has been, oh, like maybe I do have more power than I originally thought. Maybe if I do really run towards something and really go towards it, maybe I have a good chance of doing it and doing it well. Then that is scary because, oh, well then what should I do like the thought of failure is scary, but the thought of, I think, success is also scary in a sense.
How so? What are you afraid of in success?
I feel like I've just been afraid of maybe like, I don't know if I'm creating a false choice in my mind, but it's like maybe I should set a goal, but then what if I like, but what should that goal be, and what is that goal going to be, and like.
But if you hit that goal, you can always set another goal, and maybe it's not always like a business or financial goal, but maybe now your goal is that like, you know, I'm gonna read more. I'm gonna, you know, like something more personality, like the Einstein thing, work on your personality. Like maybe you set some other goals that aren't just so numbers driven or something, but you continue to set goals for yourself.
And I do think like reading more is a good goal. But then it's like, okay, well, you're reading more, but then my mind is like, but what am I gonna do?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Like life is short. Like
there are people that read and never do, or learn and never implement.
Yeah, I don't know. I've been thinking a lot about time. It's like I had this like summer camp reunion, and like I remember like my last time like as a counselor was like 2013, and my campers were like going into 11th grade, and now they're like. They must be like the age that I was at that time when I was the counselor, and now I'm like 25. And just like going and like you see people after years, like I guess going to any sort of reunion, it's just like this smack in the face, like from time almost. Yeah. It's like, fuck, it just keeps going. Like it's going now just as fast as it ever will, but like it's always just kind of going. It's like, I guess I've just had like time anxiety. Like yeah. I think for my whole life it's like make the most of this. Like we're gonna try and do something, but then I think I fall into these like waves. Kind of like we may be in like a similar place with it. It's like, but what? But why? But like
yeah. Dude, I mean time anxiety. I think that sums up like a huge portion of my life is just thinking, like reflecting on, like, is this the right use of my time? Like I said a minute ago, it's not like sometimes I'm like, well, is this the best use of my time? Is this the thing that is the biggest sort of ROI of my time? But then I'm like, is that the right use of my time to be looking for the highest ROI of my time? Like maybe I just think about it a lot, and it's tough. I don't really know the answer, and maybe we won't, but I can relate. Like time just flies. I mean, I guess it's one of those things that just sounds cliche and everybody like sort of knows it, but it's kind of like on the last one where we were just talking about like nobody ever really thinks about their death, but I also think nobody really thinks about the time they spent today. Like the time, like what did you do today that you'd be happy about the way you used your time at the end of your life? It's all kind of related. Like I think that's why I meditate on and think about the death thing so much, like in that ramble in the last episode. But it's or like Memento Mori, like the reminders of death. The point of that is the focus on utilizing the present in the way that is most suitable. And does that mean producing the most or enjoying the most, or what is the appropriate mix of those?
That's a good comparison. Producing the most or enjoying the most.
Right.
And like I feel like sometimes my mind is like, but it's a trick, but actually we can have both. But then it's like, but is it? Because producing the most, like, you probably do have to like work a lot.
Right.
Like, and maybe that's worth it. Like I see like see like Gary Vee in business, and even like Logic in rap. I see a lot of parallels between them, but it's like you just work. You work, and the hours and the attention that you spend on it, that's what brings the thing. Like nothing comes free, and like of course, right? Like even I catch myself going into this like, but I want it, but I don't want to like do it. And like right, like maybe that's a signal that it's not the right thing, because maybe the right thing you're just going to be pulled towards and you're just going to do it. But at the same time, there's this balance of like, yeah, but sometimes you just need to fucking do it. Like,
yeah, it is tricky. I see it in like Ryan Holiday's writing too, because like with the sort of stoic tone, there's so much of just like, you know, like you have like a duty, like you have an obligation, right? And it's kind of just this like stoic, like do the thing, like it's human to work. And I think that that's very true.
right.
But then keeping that in balance with like, it can't all just be about producing. But then, you know, sometimes like the more you produce, the happier you might be. I think one of my favorite Gary Vee quotes, I think touches on this really well. And it's like, I agree with it, but there's there's a part of it that I'm guilty of, and then there's a part of it that I think like, yeah, like, well, obviously like that's stupid and you can't be like that. So it's weird, but it's like the quote goes something like, people want to hang out at the finish line, they don't want to run the race. And I think I think that's just very true, but I think it's our nature. Like I think I am that way a lot. Like I think about this with these goals, and it's like, do I want to do the thing to reach that goal, or do I want to have reached that goal?
Right.
Like, do I want the proudness of having accomplished this, or do I want to day in and day out move towards this accomplishment?
That's the question.
Yeah. And I think in a lot of cases we want to be at the finish line. Like we want the feeling of running to the finish line, but we don't necessarily want what it takes to run the race.
And it reminds me of actually running. It's like, I fucking love running, and it's not about, some people say, well, I like running after I finish, but like for me, it's like, I fucking love running. I love every step of it. And it's like, to be able to find something that feels like that is maybe it's just a matter of searching more, like experimenting.
That's what I'm looking for, is like, I want to hopefully find the thing where it's what I've been sort of like putting out for a few months now, which is that, like, you know, work shouldn't be a grind. Like I want it you should figure out, well, what puts you in that flow, what is enjoyable, what do you just wake up wanting to do. And maybe that is something that produces a lot and you want to, but it's like, but finding that, this ties back to the thing that I talk about a lot too, which is like, there are so many people that I think have falsely decided on what their mission is or what their goal is, and then they are just like,
they chose their major.
They've just like planted their flag, and they're like, this is my mission in life, I will not be altered. And I think that's closed-minded, because we're always changing and stuff. So yeah,
it is also like thinking back to I think a few episodes ago, you said something like, but when we tripped, it was basically like, but you're doing it, like you're doing it. And it's something that my friend Andre says sometimes. He's like, don't look at your progress from month to month, look at your progress from year to year. And when you said that, I was just like, yeah, like, I am making progress year to year. Like,
yeah. Like, day to day, I feel like I don't do shit. But if you looked at if you looked at it every year, you'd be like, whoa, I'm in a dramatically different place than I was a year ago.
And I think that there's value in a lot of these perspectives are kind of scary to look at. Like, after the day, it's kind of scary to like look back on the day and be like, oh, what did I do? What could I have done better? And there's and that. And there's also like the day is one perspective, then there's a week, a month, a year, 10 years maybe even. And you do get different perspectives from each one.
Yeah.
You can kind of see the process from the bird's eye view compared to like being in the weeds.
The farther you zoom out, the more impressive it starts to look. Like think about yourself, or I'm thinking about myself 10 years ago. I mean, it's just 10 years ago, I was literally in high school working at Quiznos, making sandwiches, smoking weed in the bathroom. I it's pretty indistinguished. I mean, now I was gonna make a joke, but
Yeah.
now I wouldn't smoke weed in a bathroom. I mean, like,
Dude, smoking fucking out the cash register. Be like, look, this shit's illegal. If you're gonna fire me, then just do it right now. Yeah.
yeah, I was making sandwiches, and I was in high school, and I didn't even know what I wanted to like say major in college back then. I was just that was 10 years ago. 10 years ago right now, I would have been 16, and I guess I would have just started junior year of high school? No. Wait.
Yeah. 10th, 11th grade, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, so I would have just started like something like that. Been in high school. Ultimately, like, hated school. I would say, like, something I can do at this point in my life is like look back and realize, like, whoa, I was not happy in middle school and high school, like, whatsoever. You know, it's interesting to look back on that too and just be like, well, that's changed a lot, and my mindset has changed a lot, and my health has changed a lot. I mean, I was super unhealthy and just looked like indistinguishable physically indistinguishable to the way I would even look now. Like, I was just like sickly, overweight with, like, you know, just not taking care of myself in any way whatsoever. It's crazy to think that all of that has changed in 10 years. But then if we looked at, say, like a 5 year, it would be a smaller change. If we looked at a 1 year, it'd be a smaller change. If we looked at a 1 month or a 1 day, like, the more you zoom in, the less it seems like we're changing.
Yeah.
Which I guess is obvious, you know? Like take those things that people post on YouTube where they take a photo of themselves every day. You're never going to change in a day, but when you play the compilation thing, it's obvious.
Yeah, I guess, and like, I think a lot of my anxiety comes from like, but what if everything I do, like, I'm trying to think of it like, but what if it's not enough? Like, what if
Enough for what?
Right, and this is a follow-up question to that. Like, I don't fucking know. But it's like, you know what it is? It's like, I feel like after accomplishing some of these goals, it's like, oh, wow, like, I might have, like a lot of potential. Like, what should I do? Like, what's good for the world? Like, how do we do this thing? And, like, let's fucking, like, go. But then there's, like, but what if? And, like, like, I'm getting older, and, like, there's a big difference between, like, being 25 compared to being 35, and then compared to being, like, 45 and, like, 55. Like, I don't know. It's just, like, I think that there's two sides to it. One is, like, there is that anxiety, but then also, I mean, maybe I've always had this, and maybe that's the reason that I've done some of these things that I'm really happy with. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think on the age part of that, I mean, so many people don't build their billion-dollar company until they're 35, 45.
Most people
50.
don't build their billion-dollar company until they're 35.
Yeah, I would say, like, you know, the average person waits to build a billion-dollar company until they're 35 or 45. You know, that's like the typical progression of your life. Like, you know, you're working at Quiznos. A couple decades later, you're building a billion-dollar company. But yeah, no, I mean, I'm constantly stuck on the
Q to
same
B curve. Sorry.
I'm constantly stuck on the same thought, and it's like this is one of the things like I wanted to talk about, because it's what I've felt maybe especially stuck on lately. It's like that the should I be doing more? I have all these opportunities. I could do this. I could do this. I could do this. Or should I just like zone in on a few things, produce stuff, but take a little more time to be at ease as well? Because it's like there are days where it's like I'll beat myself up for not working really hard, but then it's like, but I also want to like read and hang out with Jessica and listen to a podcast or stuff like that.
You know what I find, just a thought that's coming now for this, is when I'm doing a few things, I'll be really happy if I can like do really well and I feel like I'm doing my best and I feel like the things are turning out well. But what causes me a lot of anxiety is if I feel like I just don't have the time for everything. It's like, oh my God, like, and I have to like figure out my accounting shit, and like that's taken a while, and like there's this Chrome extension that's like free now, but like people like want to use it, and like I like need to update the code for that. And like I just like I feel like also like I'm not very good at like outsourcing things yet, and like this is what causes me, I think, to get anxious and anxiety when I feel like there's all of these things that I could like any one of these things I know I could do really good at separately, but then when you combine them all together, and then I get anxious because it's like I see the potential of it and I feel like I'm not reaching it, and I feel bad about myself.
100% same. And I've thought about this so much that I feel like what's probably the answer, but then it comes with another set of questions we can get into, is what's probably the answer is you get to a point of being able to afford to build an amazing team around yourself that are paid in very healthy salaries and stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of like the people that sort of break out, they figured that out. They figure out how to lead a team, and then they can just be like, well, they can kind of steer, which I think is probably where I'm heading eventually. But then it's like, you're a manager. So I would have to do it in like a Tim Ferriss type of way where I'm like, you can't fucking text me at this time. Like I check my emails once a week, like, stuff like that. Cause I think, managing people can, then you're just you become not what you set out to do.
Though I think, two things. Number one, I think it is about the money, but it's probably more about just like finding the right people. And then once you really get the right people around you, there's always going to be issues that come up. And I agree. Like, I don't want to be putting out fires. Like, I think a lot of CEOs do this, and that just doesn't excite me to have to like solve the disaster every day. I want to be able to like create and stuff.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it's like, I think there's these like trade-offs. It's like, I feel like another theme to this is just like growing up and like making trade-offs. Like, there is something really fun about being a kid and just playing PlayStation all day. But then we realize, like, okay, well, like, if we want to do things, then we can't play PlayStation. And we sort of, like, have to sacrifice that. And, like, I used to eat a fuck ton of ice cream. Like, any of my friends that listen to this probably know. Like, some weeks, like, especially in college, like, I used it as a drug. Like, 3 times a week I'd have a Ben & Jerry's pint. And then I was reading this book, The Obstacle is the Way, by Ryan Holiday. And one night I was just like, what's my obstacle? The ice cream. It's like, okay, like, I gave that up and I stopped eating ice cream. And like, that was hard. And like, I don't have that enjoyment of the ice cream anymore, but I have a different kind of enjoyment of like not being controlled by it.
Yeah.
And it's like, fuck, like, there might be more growing up to do for me, like in other senses. It's like, maybe I love having a free calendar every day, but also maybe I shouldn't, because maybe I like do need to like keep myself accountable for my time.
Interestingly, Ryan Holiday tries to have a very free calendar. He's talked about this. He has a couple interesting articles, and like it's the same thing. I'm balancing that constantly. It's like I think we craved, at least I do, I crave to get back to that childlike freedom of waking up and playing whatever I want and going outside for 6 hours, and it doesn't matter. You can do whatever you want. You can explore whatever you want. You can create whatever you want. and we slowly get sucked into the box of needing to do stuff. But then you're right. It's like, well, maybe I should have more structure in my life. Maybe Tuesdays should be the days that I'm on the phone all day and doing this, and this. And then maybe Wednesdays I should be creating content all day. And then maybe Thursdays I should be like, recording podcasts. And like Friday I should be working on these other businesses and having these meetings. It's like, but then back to what you said about feeling like you don't have time. I hate the excuse of I don't have time. But the more I grow up or move on, it's just like, wow, like, I don't have time for all this.
And I don't have time is the same as saying it's not a priority.
Right, I'm not making the time.
Yeah.
Like, if
and they sound different when you say them, but it's really the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, right, because you can always make time, but you're not going to make time for just anything.
Yeah, we sort of like rank things in terms of importance and then just try and do those.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's tough, dude. That this time anxiety conversation has so many facets that we just talked about, and it definitely, the reason I am excited to talk about it, and I'm sure we'll probably talk about it next week and the next week and the next week, is it's because it's like, it's this crazy thing that I feel like I'm stuck in, and I feel like everyone is, whether they've realized it or not, is like they're kind of like grasping for more time and trying to control trying to control their time, trying to do what they want to do, not what they don't want to do. I mean, this is a huge problem and question that is a worthy question too. Like, you shouldn't be like, like, you know what, the solution to this is just to not worry about it. Like, no, like, your time's gonna run out, you're gonna die, all of that. Like, you kind of have to move towards figuring out what you want your time to be spent on.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of different angles to this, and something that I think about is like the wisdom of old age versus the wisdom of being young and like being curious and energetic and like go wherever you want versus schedule it and like make sure you show up and like doing the work. It's like, what's the mix? Because like, man,
what's the mix?
I think that like a lot of people get older and just like lose the fire, lose the passion. Like, right. Yes. And that's so fucking like depressing and like scary to me.
It's horrible. It's like sad and terrible.
Yeah, it, like
the mindset of age is a huge thing we could
and like to consider yourself old. It's like, I feel like old is a feeling kind of, and like it's yeah
I mean, old is a mindset. It's crazy how some people do it at, I mean, almost like every major milestone of age, you get people are like, well, at first I was going to start this by saying like, people get to be 50 or 60 and they start saying like, oh, I'm old now. But the truth is that there are people that are like, oh, well, I'm 30 now, like I can't be doing that. And it's like these people just program themselves to act or feel a certain way based on what they think they should be doing at that age.
But I also like, I get what you're saying, and I think we've even discussed this probably on the podcast. We may have. It's like you said something like, you're 30, dude, like relax and do something. But also from the same time, from the same perspective, like I get it, like I was once 20, and then to me like 25, or even like when I was a kid, like someone who's 25, like, well, that is fucking old.
Yeah, I know. And like, or turning 26 this year for me is like, now you're past 25. Like, I feel like 25 is one of those like sort of like tipping points.
It is, yeah.
In a weird way.
Now you're just rounding up.
And I mean, obviously like 30 is all, I mean, they all are, but like they also aren't. Like, yeah, like fuck, 26. I mean, that sounded like fucking old at one point in my life. I mean, shit, 18 sounded old at one point in my life.
Dude, yeah.
13 sounded old at one point in my life. I mean, it's crazy. And I think like Gary Vee talks about this a lot, is like he says, and I don't know if this is the same for everyone, or I think a lot of it is his mindset, and he may not realize that, because he says, he feels the same at 41 as he felt at 21. But I think most people sort of let it get programmed into into themselves is like, oh, I'm 40, now I'm a little slow, or now I'm a little tired, now I'm a
And
little...
you see yourself the way that other people sort of want to see you too.
Yeah.
It's like, at the same time, I do think there's something that we're not going to have when we're 40 that we have when we're 25, 26 right now. And, I mean, that's just part of life. Like,
Sure. I mean, I think when I'm 40, I'll probably have, like, kids and stuff like that, and, like, kids and stuff like that.
And stuff like that.
You know, like, animals and other kid-like...
You could just have, you know, there's like a fake dog.
Yeah, like
have some fake kids.
I'll just have a
some
wax
fake
baby.
candles.
Wax baby.
It's great. You don't have to feed it. You just it's
so much easier than real babies.
oh my god!
Yeah.
And if you put on your augmented reality glasses, it like
it's
cries
it's basically the same thing. I mean,
you can
like,
pick the settings. It's just
let's just forget about procreation and like just have wax babies in AR.
dude. That sounds like a plan to me.
There's the title: Wax Babies in AR.
Ooh, we have some options.
Yeah, we definitely have some.
Oh man. But yeah, how do you feel? You're like winding it down?
I think we are. Yeah. Not much else on my mind. Anything else for you? I mean, there's plenty on my mind, but like, doesn't all have to.
I don't know. I think we still have to like figure out how to end these things. We can do something different every time. Also, pretty soon we'll have the Facebook group.
Oh no! As of
last episode.
Right. So it's up. So it's we're doing a Facebook group. So just to keep the conversation going, you know, maybe have even, who knows, like it could spark ideas for our conversations, discussion in the Facebook group, discussing past conversations. Like I think it'll just be a cool place for us to like kind of have a little tight-knit community around this. So it's up. It's facebook.com/groups/thoughts from space rock. So yeah, check that out if you're enjoying it, if you want to connect with us and just like, you know, give feedback, discuss past things, give us maybe like some seeds for thoughts on the next Space Rock episode. So yeah, that's there.
Yeah. Anything you want to like plug or anything like that?
No, I mean, yeah, I guess one piece of feedback we got was like, we haven't said much about who we are and stuff. Like,
right.
We probably should have done that at the beginning.
We
but
could do that as like an intro for.
I feel like for now, let's just like say where to find us, and maybe next episode, let's think to like sort of give like a proper intro of like who we really are. But like, mine is I'm Matt Loberstein everywhere. MattLoberstein. YouTube channel, same name. Facebook, I have an entrepreneurship group. You can find all this stuff through my name, Twitter, whatever, wherever, Instagram. Yeah, Matt Loberstein everywhere.
Nice.
And what about you?
Yeah, it's Sam Feldman. It ends with FELDMANNN on Instagram, and then also I run a quotes account on Instagram. I post stuff from what I read, audio stuff. It's called The Wisdom Tooth, but the username is wise.tooth. So follow along there as well.
Yeah, and I highly recommend checking out Wise Tooth, Wisdom Tooth. It's really, I think we might have talked about it a bit. Did we? Maybe not.
I like mentioned it in passing.
But well, then I'll give you a quick little plug. It's really high quality because most quote accounts are just like, you know, rehashed, just reposting everything. And these are quotes that Sam is curating himself from his own reading and stuff like that. I mean, I guess some of it is stuff you see other places too, but still, it's very thoughtfully curated. It's not just like, let me repost whatever gets the most likes. It's very thoughtful. So it's like the only quote account that I want to follow.
Oh, thank you, man.
But anyways, any ideas for how we wrap it up?
Or I guess honestly, I think we're good.
Yeah, I think we're good. So thanks for listening. Facebook group if you want, and yeah, we're done.
Thanks for listening.